21st Legislative District Live Telephone Town Hall with your state representatives Lillian Ortiz-Self and Strom Peterson and Senator Marko Liias. The 21st Legislative District covers parts of Snohomish County, including Mukilteo and parts of Lynwood, Edmonds, and Everett. My name is Lily, and I will be your host tonight. Thank you for taking the time to join us. We're calling you today because your state legislators want to give you an update and answer your questions. So please press 0 on your phone to ask a question, and you'll be placed in the queue. Again, we are calling you tonight because your lawmakers want to answer your questions. Press 0 at any time to ask them about issues that matter to you, such as healthcare, education, the environment, technology, energy, transportation, and the economy. So, if you have questions for State Representatives Lillian Ortiz-Self and Strom Peterson and Senator Marko Liias, please press 0 right now to speak with your lawmakers. Remember, press 0 on your phone right now to ask a question. I'll turn it over to your legislators for some opening remarks. Let's start with Representative Lillian Ortiz-Self.
Hello, everybody. This is Representative Lillian Ortiz-Self. I am so glad to be on this call with you. I'll tell you this has been quite a session as we look at the challenges that we face financially in this state with everything that's happening in the federal government and how it's impacting our state, the chaos that causes around policies such as education and health care. And we are constantly trying to figure out the best way to tackle those issues. We have heard from so many people around the cost of child care, the cost of health care, the cost of groceries. And those are the issues that are important to me. Those are the issues we're going to continue to tackle. In addition, we have, as many of you know, a lot of concern and fear in our communities around immigration and what is happening in our communities. That is one that we've been tackling, very passionate about, and making sure we have some immigration bills that I've worked on that we're hoping to get through to the end. And then there's worker protection rights. Now more than ever, people are afraid of losing their jobs. I sit on the labor committee, and I am trying to make sure that they have the best protections to keep them going, especially during these tough times. I look forward to your questions. And now here's my great seatmate, Representative Strom Peterson.
Good evening, everybody. This is Strom Peterson, proud to represent the 21st District. And as Lillian said, we're about halfway through the short session, the short 60-day session. But we've been working long hours and very busy days, so excited about some of the work we've done, disappointed about some that we haven't been able to get done. But we know that we have some great opportunities still to do a lot of the work that Lillian talked about. I chair the Housing Committee, and we have some really good bills on housing to make sure that all of our neighbors have a place to lay their head. So mostly, though, excited to hear about what your concerns are and what you think we might be able to accomplish here in the next few weeks of session. And now I will turn it over to my senator and your senator, Marko Liias.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be with you. We are just past the halfway point of this short session, so it's great to give you an update. I'm Marko Liias, your state senator. I live up in North Edmonds, and it's such a joy to serve with Strom and Lillian representing our district. I just want to echo a lot of the things that they've both mentioned. Top of mind for all of us this session is affordability, and particularly what can we do to reduce costs for working families, whether that's in healthcare or in housing, or what can we do to reduce costs for small business owners, reducing the tax burden on our small businesses. We also need to talk about jobs. The economy has really struggled this year, and we're seeing more layoffs, and we need to make sure we're doing what we can to create jobs in our communities. As chair of the Transportation Committee, this is a huge priority for me. Putting people back to work, building our infrastructure. We need to get light rail to Everett as soon as possible, and that can create thousands of jobs in our community. We also have to make sure we're standing strong with our aerospace industry and helping Boeing and all those jobs associated with aerospace stay healthy and strong. And then I totally agree with both my seatmates. It feels like a full-time job fighting against this rogue federal government that almost every day is doing something new to harm our communities. And I could not be more proud, particularly of Lillian's incredible work to protect members of our community who are being targeted by these masked men jumping out of unmarked vans and terrorizing people, and we are pushing back on it, and she's been an incredible, incredible leader on that. And every day I just say, what do we need to do, Lillian, and let's get to work. So we're all three working together on that as well. Look forward to your questions, and thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you for those intros. Folks, please remember to press 0 if you have a question for your lawmakers. We're going to start with Rebecca, who has a question about, sales tax for schools. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for your service, and thank you for having this call remotely. I'm at a basketball game supporting Edmonds Woodway this evening, our Edmonds Woodway girls in the tournament. My name is Rebecca Miner, and I'm superintendent for Edmonds School District. And my question is really around the progress, if any, around the striking amendment on the sales tax for services that is currently being charged to.
Hey, Rebecca, I'm going to interrupt you for a minute because we can't really hear you, at all. I mean, we can hear, mumbling and a lot of background noise. Oh, that's much better.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Better,
okay, let me try something.
Go ahead.
Let me try that. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, that is better.
Okay, thanks. I was calling Rebecca Miner from Edmonds. I am at a basketball game supporting Edmonds Woodway High School tonight up in Snohomish. I was just wondering about the sales tax on services that is being charged to school districts currently, if there's any progress on the striking amendment for that.
Rebecca, this is Representative Lillian Ortiz-Self. Just spoke with the chair of our finance committee, and that seems to be continuing to move to address to take out the sales tax for schools. And so it is still from the House something that is in process.
And over on the Senate side, we're taking it seriously as well. We did also pass a millionaire tax that removes that sales tax on services, not just for schools, but for our small businesses and nonprofits as well, part of the tax relief package that is included in the millionaire tax. So I think on both fronts, we're trying to work to make sure that our schools and everybody else in the community that was impacted by this has some tax relief in the future.
All right, thank you. Folks, if you are just joining us, this is a live telephone town hall with your state representatives and senator from the 21st District, Representative Lillian Ortiz-Self, Representative Strom Peterson, and Senator Marko Liias. Please press 0 on your phone right now if you have a question for them. Let's see, we have a question that came in through email from Claire, and she's asking, how are we making housing more affordable?
Well, great. Thanks, Claire, for the question. We have been doing a lot in Washington State over the last 5 years. I think we've probably done more than any other state in the country to address housing affordability, and that's really working on the supply side. So we passed middle housing and made it easier for folks to build ADUs. We've done a lot of permit reform. We know, time is money when it comes to redeveloping. Either you want to do a remodel on your house or somebody's developing a few lots to put in some affordable housing. And this year we have a really important bill that we passed off the floor of the House on Saturday, I think. The days all kind of blur together. That will really help in citing permanent supportive housing, transitional housing, and emergency housing. We know that's another part of the supply that we're sorely lacking. So for those members of our community that are really struggling, maybe they've had to file bankruptcy for medical debt, or maybe they've lost their job and they need a place to land and stabilize themselves so they can get back into the community. So House Bill 2266 will make sure that all of our communities are doing their part to cite these critical pieces of housing infrastructure. So really, really proud of a lot of the bipartisan work we've done over the years. But we are definitely on top of my mind as chair of the Housing Committee. So appreciate you asking about housing.
Thank you. Please press 0 if you have a question for your lawmakers. Next, we have James, who has a question about the millionaire tax. Hi, James. James?
Hey, I'm wondering if you guys can guarantee that it's not going to trickle down to people making less than $1 million, say 250, 500, 750, or whatever. Don't you think that this is going to drive millionaires away? And if I make $999.99, does that mean I don't have to pay this tax?
Yeah, that's a great question. The tax only applies after $1 million. So if you make $1,001, you only pay the tax on the $1 above the million. We know that in our district, it's about 250 people that the data say earn income in excess of $1 million. And, you know, I think the critical piece is we are trying to make the tax code fairer for working families. That's why the proposal that I voted on Monday reduces taxes for small businesses, extends the working families tax credit, and is really focused on making sure that the rest of us that are paying a large share of our income to state and local taxes get relief. At the same time, it also makes significant new investments in healthcare and education, two things we've heard loud and clear from Washingtonians are priorities, especially with what the Trump administration is doing, going after Medicaid and really taking a whack at people. I will be clear, I had doubts and questions about this policy when it was introduced. I did not co-sponsor the bill because I don't support reducing the tax to people below $1 million. I would not support that. It needs to be on millionaires and stay on millionaires because those are the folks who aren't paying their fair share today. The governor has also been clear that he would veto a bill that would extend the tax below $1 million. So I think for my part, there is a commitment to focus this on reducing taxes, increasing investments in healthcare and education, and keeping it focused on the folks who are who have benefited the most from the economy that we're in and can help chip in to support the services and the tax relief that the rest of us are looking for.
Great. Folks, please press 0 on your phone right now if you have a question for your legislators from the 21st District. Next, we have Tori, who has a question about child care. Hi, Tori.
Hi, this is Tori Armoratumna. Is this Lillian?
Yes, it is.
Hi, good to talk to you. I had a question about the capacity cap and calling in about this. It's going to be what specific legislative oversight or corrective action is the legislator willing to take to ensure that DCYF does not retroactively cap existing child care providers and cause a preventable loss of child care slots across our state in an already child care crisis?
Yeah, Tori, you know, we talked a lot about this. It has now gone up to the governor's staff and governor's office to make a determination as to whether or not we can grandfather in all those, the handful of facilities that this is impacting that are so crucial to our areas. And so waiting to hear, we've been on the floor the whole time, so haven't been in our offices, but hopefully we'll get some kind of response from the governor's office soon.
All right. Thank you. If you have a question, please press 0 right now for your lawmakers. Let's see. Jake has a question about bridge maintenance, and it's an email question. Okay, so Jake is asking, what are you doing about bridge maintenance?
The short answer is we're not doing enough and we need to be investing more. Governor Ferguson proposed a transportation budget a few weeks ago that would dramatically increase our investments in road and bridge maintenance and preservation. In the Senate and in the House, we will propose our budgets on Monday, and so you'll see our proposals in detail. But the short answer is we need to be investing more in caring for our aging infrastructure, including our bridges. I am excited for those that live in Old Town Mukilteo. The bridge that crosses the railroad tracks and goes to the ferry terminal is scheduled to be replaced just in a couple of years. By 2028, the plan is to have that bridge replaced. So it's an example locally of how we're making our infrastructure stronger and more resilient. We need to be doing that in more places around the state. It also creates good jobs. For every $1 billion we invest in our transportation infrastructure, it creates 10 to 20,000 jobs, creating, repairing, maintaining that infrastructure. So at a time when folks are losing their jobs, we can be creating jobs rebuilding and maintaining our infrastructure, that's going to be a top of mind priority.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, we have Clay on the line with a question. And if you have a question, please press 0 right now. Clay has a question about ICE. Hi, Clay.
Yeah. My question is about instead of fighting Washington, D.C., I don't like Washington, D.C., but fighting Washington, D.C., we're the ones that are paying for it. You got nothing to show for it except for my taxes are going up. Being a small business owner, I've only got like 9 employees, but that puts me over my millionaire cap. The problem is I'm getting taxed more, and I got to get that money from somebody, right? So I'm kind of confused on who's spending this money and why. Don't just give everybody a tax break. I don't care if they're making $20,000 a year or $2 million a year. It should be equal.
Yeah, it's a great point. You know, for small business owners, the income that your business makes after deducting all your expenses has to be over $1 million. So if your business is producing total net income after all your expenses of over $1 million, then the tax might impact you. Like I said, there's about 250, I think 239 people in the district that are in that position. Now, I don't know your specific business, but if the revenue is $1 million and your expenses are $500,000, then your net income is not over $1 million and you wouldn't be impacted. I also should have mentioned that the value of people's homes and their retirement accounts don't factor into any of this. This is income you earn in 1 year in excess of $1 million. It's less than 0.5% of Washingtonians that are that fortunate, and they would be impacted. The tax relief, though, will benefit everybody. We're exempting more products from the sales tax. We're reducing the sales tax on services that's been impacting businesses on nonprofits, and we're investing a ton into healthcare and education that benefits every single Washingtonian. So this is a way of rebalancing our tax code, of making sure that those who have benefited from this strong economy, that richest 0.5% of our state's population, chips in a little bit more to help pay for the services that we're all depending on, and helps us cover the increases in need that are out there because of the Trump administration. And then the final thing I'll say is, for the 239 folks who might be impacted by this tax in our district, they just got a pretty big tax cut from the Trump administration. So that's the other part of this is for those that are really benefiting from those Trump tax cuts for the rich, this is our way of asking you to chip in to support healthcare, education, and do the largest tax cut for small businesses in state history.
Thank you. Please press 0 on your phone if you have a question for your lawmakers tonight. And next we have Cassandra, who has a question about flock cameras. Hi, Cassandra. Oh, and this question, I think, Cassandra, was for Representative Peterson.
Yes. My name is Cassandra. I'm a volunteer with Snohomish County Indivisible. A lot of us are very concerned about flock cameras, especially with the abuses by ICE and Border Patrol. I'd love to know Representative Peterson's thoughts on the letter that we and 49 other organizations sent to the Civil Rights and Judiciary Committee about how to meaningfully strengthen the regulations presented in Senate Bill 6002.
Great. Thanks, Cassandra, and thanks for your interest in this. As you probably know, we had the hearing on the Senate bill, on Senator Trudeau's bill, just this morning on flock cameras. Obviously, some grave concerns and proper concerns about the use of this technology. It can be it's certainly a great tool for law enforcement to use to, make, just for example, to maybe even reduce the amount of times that they have to do a high-speed chase. But it is a great tool to use, but we know we need to put some sideboards around it. Like you said, and like the letter, I just haven't read the letter in detail because, as Lillian said, we've been on the floor for the last few days. But I think we have a smart path to make sure that we're not keeping the data for too long, to make sure that other agencies, especially outside of the state of Washington, don't have access to this data. So our federal law enforcement because of what you said, and making sure that, all of our law enforcement is trained in all of this space to make sure that we're securing the data, to make sure that we're not using it for, to track people, that these are just really point-in-time counts. We've got I'm proud to be on the Civil Rights and Judiciary Committee, so I know that we're going to make some changes. I think they made some smart changes as the bill came over to the Senate, but there's still more work to do, and definitely heard some great voices from members of our community, and I look forward to creating some really smart policy that can help law enforcement, but make sure that we're protecting citizens' rights to privacy and, freedom to assemble.
Thank you. Please press 0 if you have a question for your lawmakers tonight. Next, we have an email question from Frank. Frank asks, are we doing anything to make school transfers easier for military kids?
Frank, if I'm remembering, and my memory can get a little foggy with the number of bills that we move off the floor of the House, but I think Representative Mari Levitt had a bill to do just that, because we know military kids, but I'm super fortunate to kind of know a tiny bit about this because of some of the work that my wife has done with military families with a foundation that she ran for a number of years. So we know that these kids, they move into the state, and here they are in yet another new school. So I think we passed some legislation that makes it easier for them, more quickly for them to get their placements, more quickly for them to transfer some of the needs that they might have, their IEPs. So it's just smart legislation. We have one of the biggest military per capita military populations in the country, and so we know that we need to support those families. Those families do a lot to support our country. So I'm really excited that again that we've done this work, and we're always, I think every year we have a few really good bills to support military families, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done.
In addition to that, this is Representative Lillian Ortiz-Self. In addition to that, I sit on the Education Committee. We are looking at our high school and beyond plans. We're looking at it being an electronic system across every county, so that when a student comes in, all of their information, if they transfer from a freshman to a sophomore or a junior or eighth grade, wherever they transfer, their transcripts and all of their plan moving forward goes with them, and they're able to access it, counselors are able to access it, and schools are able to access it to keep that continuity going. And we have military liaisons that are in our larger military schools to help with that transition piece as well.
And I just want to say it was a Representative Shaver's bill, and he represents the 10th district just north of the 21st. So glad that he's been on it. He's a former military member himself, so it's something that rings really true to him.
Thank you. Please press 0 on your phone if you have a question. Next, we have Mel, who has a question about protecting Apple Health. Hi, Mel.
Hello. Hi, yes, thanks for doing this. Just I had a question regarding healthcare. Someone earlier referred to or mentioned trying to protect against some of the things the Trump administration may be doing, et cetera. So my concern particularly is in the healthcare field and Apple Health, et cetera, and if some of those benefits, I think maybe it's separate from federal funding. I don't know, but that's the concern. And if you guys are doing anything to make sure we continue to have access to those benefits as far as healthcare is concerned.
Yeah, thanks, Mel. That's a really great question. We know that the Trump administration and Republicans in Congress have made the decision to cut Medicaid funding and are going after our healthcare safety net. That's part of why the millionaire tax proposal I talked about makes restoring and protecting healthcare spending a key priority. So we're asking, again, the 0.5% of Washingtonians who earn over $1 million a year in income to help us protect against the cuts we're seeing at the federal level. That's the first thing we can do. We're also looking at ways that we can expand access to health care, even in the face of these cuts, and that means making sure as they go after Planned Parenthood at the federal level that we're supporting access to reproductive care at the local level. When they cut back the kinds of benefits and services that are being provided, we can do more to help fill in those gaps and make sure that, for example, our rural hospitals, critical access hospitals have the resources and support that they need. We also are tackling some of the big cost drivers. Just last week, we had a bill to make sure that the big pharmaceutical companies are helping to provide discounts to our local hospitals and our local clinics, our local public health responders, and that they're not gouging them on prices. We've also done things like cap the price of insulin so that folks here locally aren't stuck bearing the full cost of our broken healthcare system. So whether it's taxing millionaires to make sure that we're protecting against the Trump cuts, to Medicaid, or expanding access to folks who are at risk of losing it, we're trying to look at all the possible ways we can protect Washingtonians' access to care and keep it affordable.
Okay, thank you. Please press 0 on your phone if you have a question. And next we have somebody who wouldn't give their name, but they have a question about hiring police officers. Hello, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for having this call. Thank you for inviting me. I am just curious. I know that Washington State is last, including the island Puerto Rico, in hiring law enforcement officers. And I do know that you do have some laws in states to help with hiring. I just want to know if there's anything that you are going to do to expedite the process to hire more law enforcement officers, because at this point in time, I do know that it's hard for people who are technically eligible to not get hired here in Washington State, and they're moving to states like Oregon, California, Idaho, and Alaska.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So we have been investing in police academies to get as many graduates through as possible. So, for example, the last year we were able to graduate 248 additional officers in Arlington, Vancouver, and Pasco area. So we're trying to be very strategic about where the academies need to go and how do we recruit people and how we can get them through as fast as we can, but including our Washington State troopers that we're trying to get them to full capacity as well.
Yeah, and thanks for that. And, we do have high standards across the state, and we certainly don't want to reduce the standards. But, in my other job, I also serve on the Snohomish County Council, and our Sheriff's Department, where we don't have as many officers as we would like, but it's not for a lack of funding. We're ready to fund more officers. The recruitment is difficult. And it's true in law enforcement, it's true for nurses and teachers, it's true for construction workers. We're in a very strange time, I think, in our economy where it has been challenging to find professionals and find people to do a lot of work in our communities. Law enforcement is one of those, but we have very well paid law enforcement in this state. So we try to do that, make sure that they are well compensated for the work. We've given the State Patrol some significant increases in their salaries over the last few years. And as Lillian points out, we've really supercharged the training to have these training facilities across the state. So you can train close to where you live, so you don't have to drive all the way to the training facility. And thanks to Senator John Levick for doing an incredible amount of work on that. He's former sheriff and former State Patrol officer as well. So I always like to listen to his reasoning on a lot of this, and he's helped lead us in that direction.
Okay, thank you. Folks, if you have a question, please press 0 on your phone right now. And it is the halfway point exactly, so we're going to do a little polling. Okay, the first question is, what issue is most on your mind right now? Well, actually, that's the only question. What issue is most on your mind right now? Please press 1 if it is federal government overreach. Please press 2 if it's state budget investments. And please press 3 if it's the cost of living. Again, 1, federal government overreach. 2, state budget investments. 3, the cost of living. Okay, so we are going to go with Charlie. It's an online question, and let's see. He's saying, how are we making the tax system fairer? Actually, I think that there was somebody here. Hold on a second. Jeff has a question. I think it's basically the same thing. Jeff has a question about, tax brackets. What do you mean by fair share? Okay, Jeff?
Hi, thanks a lot for hosting this forum. Just what I'm concerned about is that the driving force of our economy is, from my perspective, is our small businesses and business is that actually hire the people, that actually get the economy growing, and we can sustain it. I'm concerned about overtaxating this segment. And so I feel that we're going to be losing these companies and businesses to more friendly areas. So my question is, what is a fair tax system? And what I'm looking for is tax the wealthy, tax the rich. They're not paying their fair share. So what is their fair share when I have data that shows about 80% of the dollars are collected from the top 20? So if that information is incorrect, let me know. But what would be their fair share?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a couple of nonpartisan groups that have looked at the tax systems across the United States to look at and assess which are fair versus unfair. And they've assessed that Washington has the 49th most fair tax system. The only place that has a less fair tax system is Florida. And here's part of the reason why. If you're in the bottom 20% of income owners in Washington, our working folks, you're paying about 14% of your income to state and local taxes here. Whereas if you're in the top 1%, you're only paying 4% of your income. So the top 1% pay a third of their income compared to the bottom 20%. That's not fair. If we could just have a flat system where everybody contributed the same amount, it would be fairer than what we have in Washington right now. We tax poor and working people more than we tax those at the very top. That's part of why the millionaire tax was designed, to make sure that those at the very top are contributing an equivalent amount to those at the very bottom. Not more, just an equivalent amount. So we're all contributing towards healthcare, towards education. And your question about business is exactly right. That's why we have made sure that this millionaire tax would pay for the largest small business tax cut in Washington state history, reducing the business and occupation tax on businesses, reducing sales tax on services that are impacting businesses, so that we can create more jobs in more small businesses, and at the same time ask that 0.5% of Washingtonians, that 230 some people in our district that earn more than $1 million a year, to just pay what everybody else is paying towards healthcare, education, and towards creating a livable society for all of us. Affordability is a real problem. I talk to middle-class families who feel like they're one paycheck away from a real challenge. And if the middle class is suffering, we know working poor folks are suffering even more. We've got to make Washington more affordable. Part of that is by asking those who benefited to help reduce the cost of living in our state for everybody.
Thank you. Please press 0 if you have a question for your lawmakers. Next, we have Sarah, who has a question about childcare. Hi, Sarah.
Hello. I have a question about childcare. So I have 2 kids in before and after care, and I'm paying about $1,500 a month. And parents and providers are still feeling the impact of the child care cuts from last year. On top of that, we're facing cuts to public assistance and threats from ICE. How are you using your voice in Cactus and with the budget leadership on the hold line on childcare and early learning through this tough budget?
Oh, that is such a great question. And one very dear to my heart. I sit in the Early Learning and Human Services Committee. We've been wrestling with this, Sarah. The cuts last year hurt our communities a lot. We are trying to, we were fortunate enough to get dollars from the Bomber Foundation that's going to open up about 10,000 slots in ECAP. That does nothing for child care facilities, and so we must protect every child care provider that we have out there. So we have Senate Bill 5926 that's protecting child care providers. That's a bill that's going through. I have a bill on regulations trying to keep our child care staff so that they don't leave by providing them rest breaks, by changing some of the ratios for the kids while protecting our children, but making sure that our staff also are able to, from small care providers, are able to take some breaks, eat lunch, so that they can better take care of our children. How do we make that setting better? We can't afford to lose staff or close doors. So we're looking at some child care regulation bills. And we are really hoping part of this millionaire tax is to say we've got to help alleviate the burden of child care on our working families. If our families can't work, businesses close, businesses get hurt. The rippling effect is tremendous. And so we've got to make sure that we all work together on this issue to make sure that we continue to fund child care. So I am trying to hold the line on no more cuts to child care and figuring out how do we save our ECAP slots, our child care facilities, make them strong so nobody closes their doors.
Okay, thank you. Folks, if you have a question, please press 0 on your phone right now. Okay, so let us talk about this poll. Okay, this is impressive. 54% of you say that you are most concerned about federal government overreach. 29% of you say it is the cost of living. And 17% of you say it's state budget investments. Okay, food for thought. All right, we are going to go with Michael next. What is this about? Artificial intelligence and jobs, I think. Michael, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much for taking my call. Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Fantastic. Okay, so my question is, what research is being done on implementing universal basic income once AI begins to eliminate white-collar jobs en masse?
Well, great. Thanks, Michael. I'm not sure about the research done kind of in correlation, but I have in years past co-sponsored guaranteed basic income bills. I think that's a really interesting concept that's been really effective, especially when targeted to in certain communities around the country. I think it's something that is proven to be really effective and help people just in the day-to-day. As 30-something% said that they're worried about affordability and the cost of living. A guaranteed basic income can really help a lot of folks. We're also doing, there are a number of bills this year on artificial intelligence. How do we put some sideboards around that? This kind of breaking technology is, it's moving faster than I think any of us really are comprehending, but I know that we have a number of pieces of legislation to try to deal with that. I know this is going to be a very interesting time to see how we can make sure we're creating enough jobs, that we're building a strong economy for working families, and hopefully turning AI into a tool of progress and not into something that hurts working families. But we've got legislation that we're working on around that, but it is it's tricky, and so I'm interested in maybe finding some information on that correlation between AI and then what can we do to make sure that those families that have been impacted by it get the resources that they need. So appreciate the question.
Thank you. Let's see, we still have time on this call, so if you have not had a chance to ask your question, please do so now. Press 0 to ask your question. And next we're going to go with Roger, who has a question about cannabis, I think. Roger, can you hear me?
Hey, thanks everyone for providing this forum for us. This is amazing, and I appreciate you letting me speak today. Again, my name is Roger. My concerns regarding SB 6328 and its proposed restructuring of Washington's cannabis excise tax. Washington's regulated cannabis market currently generates approximately $450 to $550 million annually for the state, while operating under a 37% excise tax, the highest in the nation. The next closest is only 20%. SB 6328 proposes structural changes to this tax system without a completed fiscal model demonstrating how consumers, medical patients, or the illicit market are likely to respond. Cannabis is a price-sensitive market that directly competes with untaxed illicit sources. Structural tax changes implemented without elasticity and substitution analysis risk destabilizing a reliable state revenue stream rather than strengthening it. I'm also concerned about the impacts on medical patients whose cannabis is not covered by insurance, as well as small and community-based businesses that operate on thin margins and are disproportionately affected by fixed or per unit.
Great.
Looks like we lost him. Nope, he fell from the call.
I was able to look the bill up. It was introduced. It has not yet received a public hearing in the Ways and Means Committee, so it hasn't advanced through the process, but you can sign up on the website for email notifications. If there is a public hearing, you can speak to the committee. I definitely have made a note that there's some concerns on this, and we'll take a closer look. But at this point, it doesn't look like that bill is advancing during this session, but if you sign up for the email notifications, you'll get an alert if there is a public hearing, and that's a good opportunity to make your voice heard. Thanks for flagging the issue for us.
Okay, thank you, folks. Please press 0 if you have a question. Our next question is from email, and it is from Patricia. She said that she is very concerned about ICE and what is happening in Minnesota and how awful things are, and what can the people and lawmakers do about the situation?
Thank you, Patricia, for that question. We have been dealing with that in all sorts of areas, from trying to track where ICE is coming into communities with their unmarked cars, to protecting schools and healthcare and churches, enforcing the Keep Washington Working law that we have in our state, which was my piece of legislation from the first time Trump came into office. And now I have an Immigrant Workers Protection Act, House Bill 2105, that came out of committee and off the floor. We have the flocking bill. We have an anti-masking bill so that they have to be responsible and show their faces. We have a bill that prevents them from people from impersonating law enforcement or ICE impersonating law enforcement. And we have a reporting and law enforcement response bill for the private detention facilities. That's also my bill, House Bill 2464. So we are trying to hit it in all sorts of areas. More importantly, we have put out a lot of information on education on what employers can do, what people can do when they see them, what are their rights. So please look up on our Facebook pages, our legislative Facebook pages. I certainly have it on mine so that you know your rights. What we are asking people to do is to stay informed, make sure they report anything that's happening. Patricia, I had one of my former students videotaping some abuses, and unfortunately he got picked up by ICE, even though a U.S. citizen, and held for a day. So we know these abuses are happening. They're happening in our communities. Just so many people, we keep hearing the stories. We keep reporting it to the Attorney General's office so that he can collect the data of what is happening to our U.S. citizens and others. Our immigrant community is terrified. We know they pay billions of dollars into our taxes. 80% are here on green cards, refugee status, etc. So they're not here illegally, and yet they're being picked up and abused. So this is an issue that's very important to us, and we're trying to do everything we can to protect every resident in the state of Washington.
And I just want to add that much of this work builds on the foundation of the Keep Washington Working Act, which just happens to be work that Lillian Ortiz-Self did a couple of years ago. And that was kind of really the foundation for this, and unfortunately very prophetic. Kind of was able to kind of look and making sure that we need to protect our communities. So just really proud of my seatmate for being a champion in this space for so long.
Thank you. Please press 0 if you have a question. We still have a little time on this call. Next, we're going to talk with Rika, who has a question about, let me see if I get this straight, bill to recognize decapod, crustaceans, cephalopod mollusks, and fish species as sentient beings. I totally agree. Rika, can you hear us?
Hello?
Hi, go ahead.
Hello? Oh, hi. Thank you so much for having me, and hello to the great representatives, and thank you for what you do for our county. I just wanted to talk about that there are animal species right now that haven't been recognized as sentient by law in Washington state, and it's really a shame because the science is saying that they can feel and they are sentient. And if they were recognized as sentient, and specifically the species that I'm talking about are decapod, crustaceans, cephalopod, mollusks, and fish species, science is saying that these are sentient beings. These beings can feel. But if they were recognized as sentient, then there could be laws put in place to protect them from getting unfair treatment. There are cruel treatments still allowed because of their sentience not being recognized currently. And do the senators have any interest in this issue? Or the representatives of senators?
Yeah, thanks, Rika. I've been doing some work over the last couple of years, at least with octopuses, and we're kind of we're leading the nation in some of the protections. Last session, we passed a bill to ban the farming of octopus in Washington waters. We currently don't have any octopus farms, but this is something that's happening worldwide, where companies are doing this type of aquaculture, which I think is very negative. So we passed the ban of octopus farming. I had a bill this year, unfortunately, just with the time constraints, it didn't make it through, but also had a bill to ban the import of farmed octopus. So this is a little bit different than what you're talking about, but kind of in that same world. So I've been getting to know people literally from around the world that are working on these issues. So as these issues keep kind of evolving and we learn more, that is certainly something that I might be able to work with in the future. We have a great group of legislators in the House called the Fur Fighters, and while these animals don't have fur, we're looking at all kind of animal rights. So we have some great legislators that are working on any whole host of issues to make sure that either our companion animals or animals out in the wild have better protection. So thanks for that question, and we'll keep looking into it.
Thank you. We have about 7 or 8 minutes left, so get your question in. Press 0. Next is Nicholas, who has a question about road usage charge. Hi, Nicholas. Can you hear us?
Hi, thank you. My name is Nicholas Kadir Jensen, and as a renter in the multicultural and diverse Mariner community, I want to first thank you for your leadership in protecting our communities from federal overreach and for your work to address Washington's regressive tax structure. But looking ahead, our county is expected to welcome hundreds of thousands of new residents by 2040. So what steps are being taken in the upcoming budget to repair aging infrastructure, and while also planning for growth in an equitable way? And as the state considers tools like a road usage charge, how are you thinking about funding infrastructure in a way that ultimately doesn't disproportionately impact renters and working families?
Great question. Thank you, Nicholas, for that. As we work on transportation funding, our core approach is to try and make sure that folks that use the system pay for the system. So that's why we've long relied on a gas tax where the more you drive, the more you pay. It's why we've implemented tolls on some of our corridors. It's why we have vehicle license fees and other mechanisms. People pay fares when they ride on our transit systems and our ferries. So the whole system has really been focused on the more you use it, the more you contribute to it. Obviously, that has some impacts on working families who have to live farther away and drive further in, which is why we're trying to create more options for people. That as we look at funding tools moving into the future, that same basic concept of the more you use the system, the more you contribute to keeping it up is going to continue. The specifics around a road usage charge, it's a very complex and hard policy to get the details right. So we haven't advanced any proposals in the Senate at this point to implement a road usage charge because we want to make sure we're protecting folks' privacy, that we're not sort of tracking more information than we need to, and that we're thinking through the kind of way that it would impact different kinds of rural users or other folks as well. So as we move forward, our focus is going to be on those tools where the more you use, the more you pay, and also thinking through how we create more transportation choices and options for people. At the end of the day, we've got to keep our infrastructure in good repair. We've got roads with potholes, bridges that we've had to take out of commission in different parts of the state. So we've got to do a better job there. But we also have to recognize that affordability is a core challenge and try and sort of keep an eye on both of these things as we move forward.
Thank you. Okay, so we really now just have very few minutes. We have a email question from Lisa, who is asking about the package of voting/election bills. Go ahead, members. This was an email question.
Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry about that. Well, I will say that we passed quite a few of them off the House floor, so it's made it through the House and it's on the way to the Senate. So we're very excited about that. Protecting our democracy is really important now more than ever. And so our great chair of the State Government Committee, Representative Mena, has led that charge. So we're very excited about that. We don't think they're going to have any problems in the Senate. We expect to get them out of the Senate as well. And we have, for example, the pre-clearance review bill. That was a big priority for us. It prevents voting rights problems before they happen, and we want to make sure to get that done, and we did. They put a lot of amendments on it and tried to fight us on it, but we voted it out anyway. So we're very excited about that one. We're gonna continue to strengthen every Voting Rights Act bill that we can to make sure that our democracy and everyone's voice is heard.
Yeah, and just to add on a little bit to that, so every year as we go into session, we kind of come up with a big framework of the things that we want to work on as House Democrats. And I know the Senate does the same thing, and this year was certainly, as Marcus pointed out, is issues around affordability, health care, but one of the other big tenets of the things that we know we need to work on because of this federal government is democracy. And so we have a great number of bills working on supporting democracy, supporting our voters, supporting our very, very successful mail-in voting, and making sure that everybody's voice is heard. So thanks for that question, and this is a top priority of Democrats.
Okay, well, we have just a few minutes left, so Thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you did not get a chance to ask your question, you can leave a message for your 21st District legislators at the conclusion of this call. But first, we're going to have closing remarks. Senator Liias, let's start with you.
Well, thanks so much. First of all, we're really excited to meet people in person this Saturday at Edmonds Woodway High School. We hope you can join us there for that conversation as well. At the end of the day, our focus this session, I think you've heard it loud and clear through all of the questions that have come through. Affordability, making sure that it's easier to afford the cost of living in our state, whether that's health care or housing or child care. We're working on trying to make those things more affordable for people as we move forward. We also, as this economy is struggling, have to make sure that we're creating jobs in our community as well, whether it's in infrastructure and transportation, keeping our aerospace industry strong. We've got to be doing more. And then in the face of all the cuts and all the attacks and all the chaos in Washington, D.C., we have to do more here in Washington state to push back. That means making our tax system fairer by asking millionaires that just got a giant tax cut from Donald Trump to contribute more towards health care and education and towards cutting taxes for small businesses and working families. It also means fighting back against ICE and fighting back against all the things that we see this administration doing to people in our communities. We are going to stand strong, make sure we protect Washington from that. From our federal government. We have an attorney general that we work with very closely who has sued this administration when they violated the law. We're going to continue pushing back. So affordability, jobs, fighting back against the federal government that's overreaching. These are the core priorities this session. I'm so proud to work with Representative Ortiz-Self and Representative Peterson. Truth be told, not every legislator gets along with their House and Senate members. I'm really proud we're on a team where we meet weekly, we have lunch, we have dinner, we talk about the issues that we're working on together, and we're a team for you. So I'm going to hand it off to my teammate, Strom Peterson, for his closing remarks.
Great. Thank you, Marko. Senator Liias, very much thanks for all the great questions. I think, just hearing what your concerns are definitely what our concerns are, what we've been working so hard on this session, for the first half of this session. As Mark said, we look forward to hearing to you all and meeting you, seeing some faces in person this Saturday. 10:30 is the start time. Get there early. These usually get pretty crowded, again, at Edmonds Woodway High School. So we can listen. Just one of the great things about this job is getting ideas from constituents and finding out what's really what is it that you need us to do. I think this is a great level of government where we can actually affect change, where we can do things relatively quickly when we get some ideas. And a lot of the work that we're doing this session is just that, work around issues around, again, democracy and affordability. So I'll keep at it. I'm very excited to chair the Housing Committee again, knowing that housing affordability is one of the top concerns from another online poll that we did a few weeks ago. So really appreciate your feedback on that and look forward again to seeing you all on Saturday. And now I will turn it over to Lillian Ortiz-Self.
Thank you, everybody, again for being on this call. I will tell you, your questions echo what we hear every day up here, emails, phone calls. You are echoing the concerns of many. The federal overreach, the impact it has on our state around health care, around education policy, child care, immigration, people's fear, jobs, all of those are areas that we continue to hear about. Those are areas we're trying to attack every single day. We need to make sure that you have food on your table. We need to make sure that you can go to work because you have sound child care. We need to make sure that our schools are providing the best services so our kids have a fair and equal chance. And we need to make sure that health care is afforded by every person in the state of Washington. Those are the things we're very passionate about. We'll continue to fight for those. Thank you, and we do hope to see you on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you. So this Saturday, the 21st Legislative District delegation is going to have an in-person town hall in district. Saturday, February 21st from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. and it will be at the Edmonds Woodway High School Great Hall. That is 7600 212th Street Southwest in Edmonds. Again, Saturday, February 21st from 10:30 to 11:30 at Edmonds Woodway High School Great Hall for the in-person town hall. Thank you, everybody who joined us. Thank you to the members. And, good night. We'll see you next time.